Seksaria, welcome to 21st Century State of Affairs. Today I have with me Grace Cobb, 21st Century Australia Party's first candidate. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you. Well, I'm not technically the first. Jamie's actually the first, but I'm the first non-Jamie candidate.
Oh, well, that makes sense. So, Grace, my first and most important question is, whom are you running against and where are you running?
I'm actually running for the seat of McPherson in Queensland. It's a beautiful tourist strip that starts at Burleigh Heads and travels on through down to Coolangatta on the border.
Okay, and what do you want to do differently to Karen Andrews, and what policies do you want to bring in at that electorate?
Karen's done a fabulous job in the time that she's been MP for McPherson. It's more what I hope that as an entirety the party will be able to do. But in particular, there are things that I want to focus on there in terms of the high-speed rail, which if that's the number one thing I want to focus on. If we could bring in a high-speed rail from, say, Robina Town Centre through to the Brisbane CBD, that would clear up traffic congestion, parking issues. It would open up a world of possibilities for the members of the Gold Coast.
Definitely, that makes sense, Grace. Now, Grace has a background in fashion, is that correct?
Well, in media. I actually started off at Channel 9 and was given a great opportunity as a television presenter for an international fashion channel, which led to becoming a fashion editor, which led to becoming a digital media entrepreneur. So, fashion, yes, but more media.
More media.
Yes.
And Grace is only 25 years old, so let's just ask her, Grace, what brought you into politics, or why are you getting into politics?
I have absolutely always wanted to be involved in politics, but I thought I would be 50, not 25. So that it's come a lot earlier, but it's one of those opportunities that if someone gives you a great opportunity like I was offered by the 21st Century Australia Party, you don't say no. I grew up in an environment where I was encouraged to affect positive change. My mother's an educator, and I believe that it's your social mission to affect positive change on your circle of influence. And there can be no greater circle of influence than starting at the federal government level.
Fair enough. And you know Jamie? Did Jamie offer you to become a part of the party?
I had heard rumours that Jamie was bringing Oprah to Australia, and sitting down at lunch, Jamie and I have been friends for quite a few years. I said jokingly to him, if you bring Oprah to Australia and I can meet Oprah, then I'll run for the seat of New England. Now obviously Jamie's running for the seat of New England and that seat's taken, and that's my hometown, or my home area. I'm from Armidale, but the seat of McPherson where I now live was available, so I thought let's go for that.
Yeah. Alright, and so the transition from fashion to politics, how are people reacting to that, and how are you dealing with that as well?
People are a little incredulous to begin with that I want to get into politics. I am very grateful for the life that I have now. I get to travel, I get to meet a lot of people. I ran quite a large team of about 40 people in releasing my digital magazine last year, and I manage a team of about 6 people everywhere that I travel in terms of broadcast. And people management is something that you absolutely need in politics. And anybody who's taken the time to talk to me over the last couple of weeks has realised that it's something I'm very interested in, I'm taking it very seriously, and that I'm more than capable.
Alright, but Grace, I've also read that you've travelled around Australia, and a lot of that experience you feel is something that you can bring about as a politician in politics. So how did your travels around Australia impact you in a way that you can make a difference in politics?
I think that's probably twofold. It enabled me to see what Australia has to offer as a country, which I think we are massively unproductive in terms of what we could offer. And the second is that I now have a network of people who are very passionate about specifically the industries they're involved in, but a network Australia-wide that I can tap into. A large part of being a politician is being able to campaign and being able to get people interested in what you're talking about. I think one of the major issues in Australia at the moment is that especially people of our generation have no knowledge nor interest in the policies that govern their everyday lives.
Of course, and I think when we were chatting earlier, you said you want to get youth and women involved in politics. So how do you plan on doing that, and what's your reasoning behind that?
Absolutely. I have been a political nerd from a very young age. I remember when Kate Ellis, who's one of the Adelaide MPs, started following me on Twitter. I was so excited, and I ran around telling all my friends, and they were like, who's Kate Ellis? They were very just completely politically unaware and remain politically unaware, and I can understand that given our current political environment. I think the 21st Century Australia policies, the 25-point policy plan that we've already released and that's available online, will speak for itself. I think that once people have feel like they have a voice again, which was the whole reason that we have a democratic government, was for people to have a voice, and that's been ignored in the last couple of years. I think it will take care of itself once people feel like we're listening to them, that their voice is heard. Then they're going to want to stand up like they do in America. I don't see why it should be any different. Campaigning, getting involved, people having a say, their say being heard in America as it is in Australia. And if I can bring that exciting environment with my network, I come from fashion, I have a lot of friends in entertainment and in fashion and Olympians and people who, the network of people that are great at getting people involved, that can use social media, that can use their celebrity to get people involved in what we're trying to achieve here.
Fair enough. So, Grace, speaking of that, what policies are you planning to push?
There are 3 policies that I really have looked into a great deal and researched specifically for my area, and the high-speed rail is probably the first electorate that would benefit from the high-speed rail, if we could put that into effect, would be the McPherson electorate. It would go Brisbane to Gold Coast, so that would benefit my electorate massively. The second is the total education overhaul, and that's something that would benefit nationally, and I believe in that so much that that's something that I would really focus on rolling out in my electorate as quickly as possible. And the third is the phase-out strategy for cigarette sales. I have had a great deal of loss in my life due to lung smoking related cancers, and that's something that I've been incredibly passionate about, but it's something that's very hard to affect social change. Unless you're coming from a point of federal government, really. And if we can start phasing out, we are not taking away their right to be able to buy cigarettes. That's their human right. If they want to smoke something that's going to make them very ill, that's their choice. But if we can start taking that choice away from them to be able to physically purchase it from people born after the year 2000, then we can start helping Australians make healthier choices for themselves.
Well, I think that's a very, very good plan, and a lot of mothers of teenagers would be very happy with you.
Absolutely, and it's something that if I can protect the generations, so my children's generations, from even being able to have the option of smoking, then that's something that I'm definitely going to support.
So we just touched upon the 25-point policy as well, and even though it is available online, Chris, what are some of the main policies that you would like to tell our audience about?
I think non-compulsory voting is something that's very important. If we in Australia had non-compulsory voting, the amount of donkey votes in Australia is ridiculous. That the people that would then vote would be informed, and they would be caring about the policies and the people that they put into government that would revolutionise what we have happening in Australia at the moment. So that's one policy that I'm incredibly supportive of. Another would be the ability to vote on major policy. Something that's come up a lot as we've travelled in the last couple of weeks has been what our party's stance would be on gay marriage. And our stance is neutral. We don't believe that politicians, as a minority, have the right to dictate something like this. So gay marriage would be something that we would set to a vote using something preferably like an online system. A referendum is a great idea, but the fiscal responsibility, something like a referendum, would cost a lot of money. The online safe versions of voting that are now available would allow everybody to have their say without costing the government an excessive amount of money and just increasing government wastage.
Fair enough. I mean, with the entire carbon tax and the mining tax fiasco, the idea of people voting directly on policy has become even more important, because the last few years has been a very tumultuous government, and it's great that you're actually bringing those in. And speaking of which, so are you planning on bringing in new technology that will facilitate this?
The technology already exists. It is actually being used in America already. It's a matter of looking into those that we know will absolutely avoid fraud, that are fiscally responsible for our country, and that we can bring in here in a way that enables everybody to be able to use it.
Yes, without being abused.
Yeah.
Of course, that makes sense. And there's a question that a lot of people have been wondering. Is the party registered yet?
Today is actually a very exciting day. We have more than the 500 members that necessitate being able to register online. Thank you. So we're actually going through the process today of registering with the AEC. Now, there are always logistical nightmares with things like this, But we have the following now. We have people supporting us, and we have that amount that we set out to a couple of weeks ago to set, and that was the 500 voters that we now have.
That's wonderful, Grace. And I've also heard that the last couple of weeks you and Jamie have been campaigning around New England, and you had these wonderful red carpet events.
Yeah.
And how did that go?
The New England was an amazing experience. I grew up in Guyra, which is a little town in the New England, and I also went to school in Armidale. So I've spent a majority of my life in the New England. I've grown up in the Tony Windsor era. So I know that there are a lot of people in the New England who are disgruntled with a lot of things that have gone on in Parliament lately. And Jamie's giving them a viable choice. It's exciting for them, especially not a lot of people maybe had heard of Jamie in the New England, for him to turn up and for them to not know what to believe. And by the time they've heard him speak, they've seen the policies, they leave with a completely reinvigorated idea of Parliament.
So are you saying that New England was supportive?
Absolutely, and it was a great experience for us to be, Jamie's obviously from Glen Innes, to travel back and be a part of the communities where we grew up and just really take some time to get to know the people there. Quite obviously, Jamie will be spending a lot of time there. He's setting up an office in Tamworth as soon as possible, and we're both looking forward to the opportunity to campaign there as much as possible.
That's wonderful news, Grace. And how were the red carpet lunches?
They were amazing. Obviously, coming from a fashion background, that's where I'm most comfortable. And they gave an opportunity for the 21st Century Australia message to really go nationwide. We had Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne across a very speedy 3-day period of events.
Yes.
And there was such great support for not only the 21st Century Australia Party, but for Jamie and also for myself. Jamie announced my candidacy at each of the events on the fly, and the questions that people came to me with, those people that maybe were candidates that were hoping, well, potential candidates that were hoping to get involved, it just blew me away, the support that we already have. A month ago, the party hadn't even been heard of. So it's amazing the change that we're already affecting in such a small amount of time.
Well, I wish you all the best, Grace, and congratulations for all your achievements so far. Thank you for joining us on 21st Century State of Affairs. This is Kritika Seksaria.
Let me tell you one thing about Jamie McIntyre. What you see is what you get. Not only does he work in the business sector, he also works with youth around Australia. He is the architect, he is the founder, he is the originator. This man is the real deal.
So the first rule in business is you must add value to society in some way. Old school is just make a profit, who cares if it adds value. New school is predominantly social mission. What is your social mission? You see where this all starts? You should be going out in the world saying, how can I change the world and make it a better place?